I'm now going to introduce Steve Davey. And Steve and his wife Tamara bought a small plot of land on the edge of Dartmoor and have gradually converted it from a commercial conifer plantation to a native broadleaf woodland with oak, sweet chestnut and birch. And they've added ponds, and it's now become a thriving wildlife area with insects, amphibians, birds and mammals. And they manage it to mimic natural processes such as storm damage, and it's become a wildlife paradise. And they were recently featured in The Guardian, and to my mind they're the sort of people who are crucial to the restoration of our natural heritage. Now, I think Steve is going to introduce himself, then Liam, I believe, has got your video, so he will then share them. So over to you, Steve. Thank you for coming.
Good morning, everybody. Can you hopefully you can hear me? I think I'm unmuted. I'm not used to all this techie stuff. It's a little bit much for me. I'm quite technophobe. But anyway, good morning to everybody. I'd like to tell you a little bit about our project in South Devon. It's something we started off in 2018. It's myself and my wife Tamara. It's a conservation project, and it's an exciting and evolving project with the aim of providing ongoing habitat provision and creation for a number of species, in particular bats, nightjar, woodcock and invertebrates. We definitely have at least 7 species of bats there. We did a survey again the other night, and there was 3 possible additional species, so we could end up possibly having 10 plus bat species, which is fantastic. The inverts are crucial. You know, we've got to look after those, and some of my grassy rides, you'll see in the video, are so important. But we're giving a lot of careful considerations to the impact of the future climate changes and challenges we face. So species choice is critical. Future timber crop extraction is a consideration, because in 50 years time, you know, I don't want all our good work to be trashed. So again, we're giving a lot of consideration to that. And boosting with different species. So I think we've probably added 18 to 20 different species of shrub and tree since 2018. And again, that's going to boost its future resilience and hopefully help the wildlife as well. So I hope you enjoy this short video. I haven't included everything in there. I missed out the coppice sweet chestnut. So hope you enjoy it, and speak to you all later. Thank you. Okay, so
Did you optimize the video, Liam?
no, right.
Okay, so basically myself and my wife haven't had any formal qualifications in forestry, land management, habitat management, but from a very early age, from childhood, I've had the passion. I've always been mad keen with wildlife and getting out there and going for walks on the moors, and as a child I even had a bit like Kes the film, even had a kestrel in my garden shed for 6 months looking after it, and tawny elm, sparrowhawk and all manner of things. But yeah, I always had the passion, and I think that's important, because you don't necessarily need the formal qualifications to do what we're doing, and that's important. You just need the passion. So I'm going to give you a quick guided tour of our very varied bit of woodland. So this here is a Douglas fir stand of about 3.5 acres. It's planted in '69. We've had it thinned this year, and so as you can see, there's a nice amount of light coming in through the top. This is one sort of commercial aspect to our project, Woodland Wildlife. It didn't start off with the intention of being a commercial venture. Once we purchased the woodland back in 2018, I was just gobsmacked by the amount of wildlife that was already present. So, you know, I can't take credit for the wildlife that's here now, but I do want to help preserve it, encourage it, and build on it, really. So, yeah, this Douglas fir stand, like I say, was planted in 1969, and some lovely timber here. It's been thinned, so the light's coming down through nicely now, so they won't need to go up for the light, they'll girth out. And what I've done here, I've tagged a random 30 trees that I'll monitor their girth growth over the next 5-10 years, and then, yeah, try and sell the timber as and when the prices are good and the timber's sort of at its peak, really, in terms of its value. But in here we've already got quite a nice diverse range of ground vegetation. We've got wood sorrel, that's an ancient woodland indicator. I've got dog's mercury in here, enchanter's nightshade, lots of ferns, hard ferns, also known as deer fern. But more importantly, there's a lot of self-seeded saplings, and what I'm hoping to do is, from this bank here to about 20% of this area, this stand, will be self-seeded with oak, ash, and beech, plenty of beech. So I'll nurture them on. There's some here, beech. There's plenty of beech. I'll protect the ones that I want to grow on, put some tubex shelters around, just so the deer don't nibble the tops off. With regards ash, well, it is a little bit contentious. I'll keep an open mind at the minute, but my personal view is if it's healthy, don't worry about it too much. There's no problems with them in here. But this is going to be a great project in itself. In here, it's like I say, it was only thinned back in April, May this year. So I think you'll find everything's just going to shoot up, and might have a bit of a problem with bramble, but nothing we can't handle. So this is, like I say, about 3.5 acres of commercial Douglas fir. I haven't quite decided yet, in a few years' time, what I'm going to put back in. Keep changing my mind, so that's still open, but I've got plenty of time to think about that. But whatever I do put in, I might even put a lot of Douglas fir back in, because it clearly does well here. I think it is important to recognise the fact that the UK will need a continued supply of homegrown timber, not just native woods, but pine. I know there's a big push to convert all the pine to native, but you know, we import a huge percentage of pine, and I think really we need to be thinking about that. long and hard, because it's a valuable commodity to the UK, and I think we need to be growing a good amount of it ourselves. So yeah, I haven't quite decided what I'll put back in, but might put a mixture. So we're coming into the main plot. It's a bit bright on the camera, but this main plot area is 4¼ acres. It was clear-felled in 2012, and then they decided to put about 2,000 young Sitka spruce in amongst everything. I don't like Sitka spruce. It's really horrible to work with. It's really pretty. That's a Douglas fir. But yeah, it's all really prickly stuff. Tell Sitka because it's got the blue underneath and it's prickly. This hedge here is been an interesting project. We planted that in 2018. It was just a bare bank before with bramble and wood sage and a few self-seeded Douglas firs. So we've put in a nice native mix of blackthorn, hawthorn, oak, crabapple, dog rose, dogwood, field maple. I've had to mesh around it because the deer were nipping the tops off, but now it's grown away quite nicely. And you'll see there's a mulch down there as well. That's just to help retain any moisture when it rains. That does work actually. That was a Sitka spruce mulch, and that really does help. This is a nice little grassy ride that hasn't been cut for 12-18 months. It will need a cut this year because it's getting a little bit, certain species of grasses are getting a little bit thick. So yeah, I'll need to work on that this winter a little bit. I might just do a strip. Thin out a strip of that. But there's all sorts living in there. Dark bush crickets, the butterflies love it. Very, very important habitat, little grassy areas. But here you will see what you've got to look out for is the bramble. Bramble in its own right is fantastic, but if you don't control it, it will take over these grasses. If I didn't manage it, it would take over these grasses, and you just have bramble, scrub and bracken, no grass habitats. So then you'll get a displacement of species. So it's very, very important that these grass habitats, well for me anyway, these grass habitats are managed in that way. It's a bit like your flower borders at home. You know, if you didn't weed them, your weeds would take over, they'd compete for light and nutrients, and your flowers would struggle. So it's not a lot different in principle to that. So down here, another grass area. Now this was back in 1800, and earlier was heath, wooded heath, and that's what I want to restore a good bit of this back to. It involved taking out a lot of the young Sitka, but it'll be a great project, and it will restore it back to its original state. It's a classified dry heath, but some lovely bell heather. I'll show you. The crickets and the grasshoppers. There's plenty of heather in here, and I want that to grow on really, because it was shaded out by the Sitka spruce, and now it's got more light, more space. It should grow on. So common heather there, lovely bell heather there. put in a few Scots pine for a few reasons. Scots pine is one of the few pine trees that support a fantastic amount of wildlife, and they also cope admirably well in dry conditions once they're established. So thinking long term with our drier summers, Scots pine is a good choice for both species and climate. I've done the same with some juniper. I put some juniper in, very young plants, but again they cope absolutely fantastic with dry conditions. So thinking long term, what we plant with regards species and climate is really important. Sorry, going back to the hedge, I heard something a while ago now, and I thought it was a fantastic idea. There's a guy in the South Hams that's a farmer, and when he does his hedge trimming, he leaves some of them. So the trees are already in the hedge, and he's going to leave certain stems to grow on, which I think is a great idea, and I think it's something that could be adopted throughout the country. They're already there, they're already planted, just leave some, let them grow on. Great idea. So this is the west to east ride. In here is a little pond, one of 3 small ponds. This is quite a shallow one. It's a shallow gradient at this end, purposely, so any nightjar can have a drink on the wing, come in quite nicely. This one I made with sodium bentonite, so it's a fine powder clay that you have to mix with the soil and then compact really hard. The secret's in the compaction. It's got to be well compacted, otherwise it won't hold, and take out as many stones as you can as well. But once this was installed, within one day, had broad-bodied chaser dragonflies here. I can't tell you how important water on site is. And this has got no natural feed, so it's totally reliant on rainwater. But the mosquito larvae and everything that it produces, superb food source for. We've got 7 recorded species of bats here, and you think a tiny pipistrelle can consume 3,000 insects a night. It's going to be a valuable food source and habitat. Earlier in the year we had huge amounts of tadpoles and frog spawn, which was fantastic, and toad spawn as well, so both frogs and toads. And like I say, that habitat wasn't here beginning of last year. It was part funded by Batworks grant of Devon Wildlife Trust, which was a useful bit of income because to help with the project, because up until now it's just myself and my wife that have funded everything, and it's not easy. We've also planted over 440 trees and shrubs throughout our ownership, many different species that were here, so I want to boost both its future diversity and its resilience. But it's a really good habitat. There's a juniper here. There we are. So we've got a series of 3 small ponds. They're only small, they don't need to be big. This one here, I did put those lilies in. It's a native lily. I can't remember its name, sorry. But this has got a little bog area to the right. That's really nice. Let's zoom in on this butterfly because right there is a lovely wall brown. red listed species. Gorgeous. I've got a very active Facebook page and I post a lot of my pictures on there. That's Woodland Wildlife. Getting close to them sometimes is the hardest thing. So we've got all manner of species of wildflower here, tormental, bird's foot, yellow pimpernel, self-heal, heathbed straw. And as we go down here, you'll see where we work, the area we worked on last winter. So this path here was Sitka up until the edge here, and then we took it back in, so widening the rides. Hopefully this lovely brown bent, got marsh foxtail, gatekeepers flying around, meadow foxtail grass and brown bent. This is a windrow. Windrows are, this one here on the right, are where they clear felled 2012. They put basically longitudinal brash piles, but obviously since 2012 that's become a fantastic habitat. We've got quite a few of those traversing the contours with bramble coming up through. Bramble again, so important. Even the flowers are gone over now, but even the butterflies are still really enjoying it. The bees as well. So here as well, there was the original path here, the Sitka were to here, and we've gone back 10-15 metres, and the plan will be to keep taking out some of this Sitka. Well, it's a huge task, because like I say, it's just myself and my wife, but it'll be great project, trying to restore this back to its original, or good part of it back to its original state of wooded heath. I have put a few different species in. This one is privet. That was on recommendation of a consultant ecologist from Butterfly Conservation. He recommended we put in broadleaf privet and wild privet. Fantastic food source for brimstones, butterflies. Sorry, it's not got a huge amount of time to say everything I want to say really. But anyone who wants to come and visit, please get in touch and I'll willingly give you a tour around. This area again, we covered all the way down to those big sweet chestnut trees at the bottom boundary and cleared back, and in here huge amounts of wood sage that's popped up all in flower. Wood sage is a fantastic food source again for the butterflies, the bees, the moths. Absolutely fantastic. So basically, in a nutshell, our long-term plan is to keep clearing areas, restore it back to its original state. You can see there's lots of gorse here. That's a heathland indicator, obviously. Back to its original state of wooded heath, which is a rare habitat these days. So a lot of work to do. The other part of the commercial aspect, which I've only started a couple of weeks ago, is woodland crafts. So a lot of the byproduct of our wood from here are making into pendants, necklaces, gemstone necklaces, Christmas decorations, fairy houses, all that sort of thing. And I do the markets only once or twice a week, generally Kingsbridge and the Trio Campton. But that's sort of it in a nutshell for the minute. Like I say, can't really say it all, but I guess it's a work in progress is the word. I think if you love nature, It will never fail you. Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much, Steve. That was lovely, and I'm sure we'd all like to take you up on your invitation to visit. Are you happy to take one question? We can't, you're on mute.
Oh, yeah, I will try.
Okay, this question is from Sandy George, and it says, now there is more light on the woodland floor. How do you keep brambles and ivy at bay?
Manually. Ivy's not so much a problem. The bramble's a problem where it's encroaching in my grassy rides, and the only way I really manage that is manually. And it's not too big a task. It's, you know, a couple of times a year, you know, a few hours. It doesn't take much, but I can emphasize how important bramble actually is as a food source. I'd love to know if there's ever been any studies as to how many species bramble supports. I don't know if anyone on here knows of that, but I reckon it could be thousands of species.